One of the insights that I'm really grateful for is knowing that we're always prepared for whatever it is that is just about to occur. That's a fundamental knowing that everything is as it's supposed to be. And to share with you a little example of exactly what I mean, a couple of years ago, I went to see a spiritual healer or a clairvoyant, a woman who delves into the mystic areas of life. And she said to me, you know, Kim, there's going to come a stage at which everything that you know about gratitude won't just be theory. It's going to live, and you're going to be able to practice it and then know in your heart that everything that you know about it is actually true and real. And as part of this process, I was wondering, when is this thing going to show up that gets me to know for sure that I know everything that there is to know? Not that I think that at any stage in my life I'll ever know all that there is to know. Anyway, one day I dropped into my parents' place and I was having a cup of coffee, but I looked at my mother's face and it had that expression on it that instantly gave me the idea that everything was not as it should be or could be or would be. She was white as a ghost. So what's wrong? What's wrong, Mum? And she said, well, I'm not quite sure. I've just rung the ambulance and I, before she said another word, I knew exactly what was happening. And for some instinctive reason, I ran to the bedroom and I saw my father on the bed. Now, interestingly enough, I'd actually just been working away and dropped in, and I wasn't prepared, or so I thought, for what I was about to see. And everything that then occurred in the next half an hour was absolutely, truly miraculous and beautiful, and yet the scariest time in my life. My father was in the middle of having a very serious heart attack. And I raced to him, placed my hand on his chest and said to him, Dad, you know that I can do Reiki healing. You know that I've been to those workshops, don't you? And he said to me, yes. So as I was placing my hands on his chest, I was imagining that I am this vehicle, or my being is about helping to transfer universal love energy or loving energy from the universe straight through to a human being. And that is incredibly healing. And then I said to Dad, seriously, right now we need to put into practice some of the things that I know. Interestingly enough, the previous week I'd done an interview via audio with Dr. Stephen Post, who coincidentally is the president of the Institute for Unlimited Love. And I'd been talking to him about the concept of gratitude and the way that it works and the physiological and psychological benefits of the concept of gratitude, the emotion of gratitude, and the attitude of gratitude. And he had explained to me really beautifully and eloquently that what happens when you have a profound and intense emotional reaction to an idea like gratitude, and in particular gratitude, various things happen in your body, in addition to things happening in your mind. But particularly in your body, what happens is that you relax. The actual muscles in your body relax to an extent that you allow for the collagen and elastin fibers to be at their most elastic. What also happens is that you increase your oxygen absorption, and the dilation in your blood vessels increases, and you have better gaseous exchange in your cells. What that means for somebody who's having a heart attack is that if they can think about in a really beautiful, focused fashion all that they are grateful for, their heart, which is a muscle, will relax. They will actually be able to absorb more oxygen and they'll get much better blood flow. In that moment, what I asked my father to do whilst he was lying there having his heart attack, and I've got to tell you that it was a relatively stressful, relatively anxious time, and he was very, very, very scared. He had fear in his eyes. He actually concentrated on what he was profoundly grateful for. And I kept asking him to imagine that he could intensify the emotion of gratitude. As this particular process happened, or his imagining occurred, he actually started to relax a little, and a little bit of colour came back into his face. We continued that very deep meditation, which is really just a concentrated, focused, energetic thought and emotion about a particular subject, or nothing at all. He did that meditation until the paramedics arrived. When the paramedics did arrive and they were doing all sorts of different things to him, I explained to him that the noise and the confusion and the action would get him to basically think about or notice and start to focus on what was happening around him and to him, and that would take his mind off gratitude. And that wasn't such a good thing to do in that time. Interestingly enough, when he went in the ambulance to the hospital, I knew that he, because of all that's going on when they're trying to save your life, he would find it very difficult to concentrate and focus on feeling grateful. I set him up by explaining to him in advance what was going to occur. When we arrived at the hospital, we actually found out that they had basically lost him, or that he had died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. But he came back really quickly, and over the space of a couple of hours and then days and then weeks, he went through lots of different surgeries, and he's actually a really healthy, happy man to this day, and he's alive and kicking, and he's got lots of laughter and joy in his life. But I've come to understand that I had actually had a life that had caused me to learn as much as I possibly could about gratitude, something in particular I'm passionate about, something that I feel like I was put on this planet to know about and then to teach others about. And then I got to practice what I know with one of the most important people in my life and make the most incredibly profound and important contribution. Now, I didn't necessarily know going into that day that I was prepared, but I got to know by the end of the day that no matter what happens in our lives, we are always prepared. If only we can be in a place that's about service to others. And that was essentially what was happening with my dad. I was at service to him. So I would ask for you to think about, what is it that you know? What is it that you truly know? And then be peaceful about the fact that you are prepared to use whatever it is that you know for its very best effect when it matters the most. And that's basically today's insight that I'm really, really grateful to share with you.